Good morning. Good morning, everyone. This is Mo from Mo in the Deep End and Fry from his nap time, as per usual. Totally there, ready for any sort of napping to happen. Good morning, Eris. Thank you for doing all of the Modly Mod stuff, which is always appreciated. Thank you, Billy Marie, for popping in. I hope you're feeling a little better. Welcome, Samantha Shoe Lover. Woohoo! And JKD Buck, it is Monday. Yes, it is. So, it has come to my attention with some comments here lately that I am terrible with names. This is not news. However, it is never done in a way to be mocking or anything like that. I am simply dead awful. I'm working my way up to be just crummy, but it is not out of insensitivity. And good morning, Peace Peony, AC Wildflower, Jess Rubery, sorry, Lil Peanut, and Spirit Matter. See, I can't even get through chats, but yes, it has come to my attention that some people think that my terror badness with names is mockery, and no, it just is that I suck out loud with phonetics. So there you go. My mea culpa in general. It's not insensitivity, it's terrible reading problems. Good morning, Christine Fortuno. Yes, so now that that is out of the way and we have addressed that once and for all for today, let's get to the news. And our first leading story, a car barrels into our president's motorcade as Secret Service hurries president and SUV. Seems like this is something they should be watching for, but apparently we were all confused. Well, there you go. See, sometimes I'm okay with things, but I did want to put it out there, and I hope you are staying safe, Jess, with the bad weather. That it is not me being terribly insensitive, it is just me being dead awful. So I take responsibility for my dead awfulness. I am working on just moving up to generally crappy. So there you go. Have goals, children, have goals. A car barreled into parked SUV protecting President Biden's motorcade on Sunday night as the commander in chief was leading his campaign headquarters in Delaware. So Biden looks just as shocked. Now, the driver of the car looks to be shocked too. The sedan, which sustained front bumper damage, then tried to drive into a closed off intersection before Secret Service swarmed the vehicles with weapons pulled, forced the driver to surrender. As it's breaking now, and from what I have read, generally I don't read articles beforehand, but this one I did. Good Morning Farrell. This does not look like any sort of attempt on the president's life. Good Morning Sal and Wolfram. It looks like someone who wasn't paying attention when they're driving, but this is just early reporting. And good morning, Wolfram. So Biden was taken into his car where his wife, First Lady Jill Biden, was already waiting before they were quickly taken home. The 81-year-old Democrat and his wife are safe. So I'm glad, regardless of how much I disagree with this person, the president, and any and all of his policies, I don't wish any harm on him or any ill will. I'm glad that, it is okay. And good morning, Flux and Sunny. Yes. So it doesn't look as though this was part of a coordinated sort of attack. It just simply looks like someone, again, who may not have been paying attention. Good morning, Hey Joe. Today at approximately 8:09 p.m., Secret Service vehicle securing the president's motorcade route was struck by another vehicle in Wilmington, Delaware. Spokesperson Steve Kopech told the outlet there was no protective interest associated with this event, and the president's motorcade went on without, incident. So it looks like this, unfortunately, might have just been someone who wasn't paying attention or, you know, was impaired, possibly. They are investigating. I'm not putting this out there. The man's info has not been put out there, but it does not look like a coordinated attack. So that is at least good for now. I mean, if there are updates, I will bring them to you. But I am, again, regardless of how much our politics and life choice stuff diverge and are on completely different wavelengths, I don't want anyone to get hurt or, seriously injured by anyone. So I'm glad that this looks like it was just a fender bender, and that's good. Well, yeah, he did invent the internet. No, he invented the Amtrak. Good morning, Bobby. In other weirder news, an alleged serial killer apparently unalived 4 people, luring them into the woods with a promise of gold. Now, I generally don't give out life advice, but if some weirdo says there's gold in them hills and wants you to go out by yourself with like a shovel and a pitchfork, I'm going to say, nah. Go ahead and say no. Promising with the allure of gold buried deep in the woods, a Washington man instead unalived 4 unsuspecting people and left. Bobby, so I will say that, okay, as a girl, I fail out loud because there are some girls that can actually use the hairdryer and the round brush, but I suck out loud at that. So they have the round brush hairdryer. So if I want to do straight hair, that's what I do. And I use, oh gosh, I'll have to do a product thing because, oh my gosh, Mr. Mo does not know how terrible and how much money we have spent on products. And I'm not telling him. They were free, allegedly. Also, oh my gosh, guys, this shirt. Look. It's the best shirt ever. Richard Walter Bradley, again using the if you're going to be a serial killer, we have to use all 3 names. So parents, if you're thinking about it, just make sure those middle names go together just in case. We definitely sure. Thank you, Hey Joe. Let's see. This one is from Piper Lou. I also got, okay, so I need to wash it, but this is the best mug ever. Ringmaster of the S Show. I mean, yeah, it was on sale. Girl math means that I quad paid for it and simply it's free now. Now, Mr. Mo likes to remind me that quad pay does not mean things are free, but what can you say? It's girl math versus boy math. It's a little different. Is already facing first-degree murder charge in the death of Brandy Blake. Now, prosecutors last week filed 3 additional murder charges in the death of Emilio Martoon. Or, look, it might be Maturin, Michael Goman, and Goman's son Vance Lakely. Sorry. NBC affiliate KING reported Lakely, 31, was last seen March 15th, 2021. In his father's Durango. Cops later conducted a traffic stop on the Durango. Bradley's wife was allegedly behind the wheel, and the Durango was impounded. Bradley allegedly wanted to hire an associate to break into the impound lot and burn down the Durango, but he never went through with the arson. I know. My son took me out for dinner last night for my birthday. We ate in a college town. It is a little weird. I will say, look, when I have to go out and I have to people, sometimes I'm like, we are in different areas of life. We are in different seasons because I have to constantly remind myself how wide-eyed and naive and kumbaya I was when I was 22 versus how get off my lawn and shake my rake and, angry octogenarian I feel sometimes now. So, At least it was good people watching. Good morning, will call magic. So, 59-year-old Goldman's body was found off an unnamed or unmaintained road in April 21, while his son's body was found in the same area a week later. Both had been shot. The Seattle Times, citing an arrest affidavit, reported that all four victims came into money. Ooh, good idea, Sonny. Law and Crime reviewed the probable cause affidavit regarding Blake and Maturin's death. Documents show investigators recovered Blake's body on May 26, 2021, at the Game Farm Wilderness in Auburn, Washington, about 30 miles south of Seattle. She died of blunt force trauma. Cops also located 3 other rib bones and bears Blake's body belonged to another person, later determined to be Maturin or Maturon. I don't know. Look, as I said, I'm terrible with names. It is not meant to be insensitive. It is simply that I'm horrible. Blake, 44, had been missing on, or reported missing on May 5th, 2021. It is a Monday, y'all. Reading English is not going to be my specialty. And was last seen with Bradley. Several witnesses told detectives with the King County Sheriff's Office they saw Bradley driving Blake's Ford Mustang in the days following her disappearance. They also told investigators that Blake had confided in them about how Bradley reportedly wanted her help digging up a bunch of gold from a previous robbery. Mattoon! Yes, well, not everyone is appreciative of my badness, but it is what I try. King, citing probable cause affidavit regarding Goman's and Lackey's death, reported a homeless man had seen Bradley with a shovel in a car that matched Blake's vehicle. Detectives arrested Bradley in 2021 on first-degree murder charge in connection to Blake's death, and arson charges related to Bradley allegedly hatching a scheme to torch Goman's Durango. With Bradley already in jail without bonds, investigators spent the last 2 years building a case against him for 3 other murders. After Blake's disappearance, a witness told detectives he had heard that Bradley enticed an accused drug supplier, later identified as Maturin, to go into the woods, quote, years ago with a promise of gold where he allegedly unalived him. So again, I'm just saying, yes. Well, you know, the names change as we go through the article. This is so sad. I mean, these people might have been struggling in the time in their life. And look, again, life advice, again, and if I'm your source of life advice, you know, call a doctor. But if something sounds too good to be true, don't go into the woods with a stranger to look for gold. I mean, nothing against these victims. These victims were probably at a very trying time in their lives, and this was a desperation kind of move. And he obviously targeted people that he knew would be receptive to these claims. But again, if someone at any point in your life, regardless of how you're struggling, says, hey, in the woods there be gold, you know, just take it with a grain of salt, maybe. Just maybe. Detectives learned that Maturin's girlfriend reported him missing on August 2nd, 2019. His girlfriend later told detectives that Bradley came to their home in July 19th, 2019, and related a story about gold to her boyfriend. She said she and her boyfriend were initially skeptical of Bradley's story, and her boyfriend wanted to know why he was asking him. Bradley claimed that Maturin, 36, was the only one he could trust, so the two left together with a pound of, well, Colombian nose candy and $15,000 in cash, according to the affidavit. The girlfriend said that the last time she saw or talked to the victim was that moment. She used Google to track down his phone, which led her to the Game Farm Wilderness area. She was going to look, but she got scared. Again, good morning, Nandor's man bun. Auburn police on July 19th, 2019, the same day that her boyfriend and Bradley were going to go dig for the gold, arrested Bradley driving her boyfriend's BMW. The cops that day saw an unlicensed BMW parked near the weirdness area. An officer saw that what he thought was Colombian nose candy in the car, so he backed off and waited for someone to come drive the car away, the affidavit said. Bradley came to the car and drove away. The officers tried to pull him over, but Bradley allegedly fled. He was later caught and arrested for fleeing and eluding. He told the officers the car belonged to a friend. Detectives submitted the ribs found near Blake's body for DNA testing in April 2022, and results came back as a match for Martin. Look, the guy's name. Bradley is at King County Correctional Facility without bond. So, again, I feel very sorry for these victims. It sounds like they were all hoodwinked. This man knew to find victims that were at a tough place in their life and exploited that. But again, no victim shaming whatsoever. But if someone says there might be gold in them, their hills, don't go to a secluded area with someone you don't really know. Even if you do know, if you get that sketch feeling, trust that sketch feeling. Believe me, how many young, naive Mo would ignore all of her gut instincts about people and assume that they meant the best. And unfortunately, that bitter and the behind enough that older, more mature Mo realizes that not all people are great. They target, so if you get those gut feelings, don't ignore them, is all I'm saying to chats. In other news, let me unbiggen myself just a little bit so you can see the headlines. There you go. Well, that is people who are very desperate, and people that he knew would be good victims, people that wouldn't maybe turn missing people in because they were involved in other illegal things. Unfortunately, this guy sounds like he had a victim base picked out and people that would believe his story. And I feel terrible for the victims. And hopefully the families will now get justice. But again, if you get that, icky feeling, so Veilhammer, you missed the story. Apparently an alleged serial killer. Now he's only been alleged or accused. He's not been convicted. According to the affidavit and probable cause documents, he led his victims into the woods by saying he had buried either gold from a previous heist or something else in the woods, and they could go out, and they were the only ones he trusted with that. But one of the victims' girlfriends was saying that they got an icky feeling about it. And again, just trust your icky feelings. In other news, YouTube mom Ruby Franke to plead guilty in child abuse case, attorney says. So I guess she's done throwing her son under the bus? Probably not. Of course not. For the first time since her arrest, Ruby Franke and her attorney have broken their silence regarding criminal charges. The popular YouTube celebrity, who is charged with several counts of aggravated child abuse, said through her attorney, Lamar Winward, on Saturday that she would plead guilty to the charges against her Monday at Washington County 5th District Court in Utah. Yes, a promise of a pot of gold to the end of my rainbow works every time. True. Yeah, she made some allegations of her young son being inappropriate in court. So I do believe that he is still separated from the other children and cannot go back there until they do a full psychological, profile on him to make sure that none of those accusations were true. If true, I hope he can get the treatment and, help that he needs. But the fact that she did that in court, just trash mom on dumpster fire mom, uh, just at it. Frankie's business partner and mental health counselor. I like how they can't use therapist anymore because she got disbarred, unlicensed, or whatever. Also faces 6 counts of aggravated child abuse. Both women were arrested August 30th after Frankie's 12-year-old son, who had been staying at Hildebrandt's house, climbed out a window, ran to a neighbor's home, and told the neighbor that he'd been abused. And if you have listened to that 911 call with the neighbor, that neighbor, it'll tear your heart out. Tear your heart out. I mean, this neighbor, he, he's sounds like an older man, but you can tell he is just horrified by how this little boy looks. Hildebrandt has not yet entered a plea to the charges. The Santa Clara Invis police in Utah said in a statement that the child, quote, appeared to be emaciated and malnourished with open wounds and duct tape around the extremities. Upon searching the home, the police said they also found Frankie's 10-year-old daughter in the same condition. All of Frankie's 4 minor children were placed into state care, according to the police. Search warrants were obtained by ABC News, allege Hildebrandt used cayenne pepper and honey to dress the children's wounds. The amount of diabolical pre-planning intent to hurt someone, you put cayenne pepper on open wounds. I mean, look, I commonly refer to myself as the world's worst Christian, but I have semi-read the Bible, and in no way does it say to, torture your children or, put pepper in open wounds. This woman just cannot. I cannot with this woman. Both women have remained in custody since their arrest. In his statement, Winward described Frankie as a devoted mother committed to constant improvement and that his client was a victim of manipulation. Oh, she's turning on Julie. This is going to be terrible for their dateship. If you want to get Nancy Kerrigan, that's how you get Nancy Kerrigan. And Eris, I'm glad that you are surviving. I know the weather is going crazy in New England, so I hope all of my viewers there are staying safe. And if you have to drop out, stay safe. Don't stay on the internet for me. You can always be part of the Rewatch crew. It is not a big issue. Yeah, I'm kind of okay with them receiving the same treatment. I'm a little Old Testament-y about these kind of things, and then I think they offered both of them plea deals for one to flip on the other. Ruby was probably easier to target. It may be, it might be a way to take Jody down completely for her many other crimes. Yes, Jody has seemed to have ruined a lot of people's life under the guise of trying to help them. True that, Flux. True that. But I'd rather y'all be safe and see me another day than stay on the internets when, there's a hurricane or such. Yeah, I'm okay with it. Quote, initially, Miss Frankie believed Jody Hildebrandt had the insight to offer a path to continual improvement. Miss Hildebrandt took advantage of this quest and twisted it into something heinous. Over an extended period of time, Miss Hildebrandt systematically isolated Ruby Frankie from her extended family, older children, and her husband, Kevin Frankie. This prolonged isolation resulted in Miss Frankie being subjected to a distorted sense of morality. Yes and no. If pieces of this part of her personality, in my opinion, as a not doctorologist, as a not psychologist, as a fluffy redhead on the internets, look, you don't go from 0 to 60 in one day. It seems like she always had this ability to be very harsh, like that time she told her younger children she wasn't going to, give them Christmas. She was giving them the gift of truth or honesty or whatever the hell she said. I mean, these had to be components of her psyche before she was led by Julie. I don't like her trying to foist all of this. The world is ending. Fry got up and went onto his actual dog bed like a normal dog. These are truly the end times, y'all. Quote, she is committed to taking responsibility. Frankie's attorney says that since her incarceration, she has, quote, been actively engaged in introspection that has allowed her to reset her moral compass and understand the full weight of her actions. Ma'am, you starved and duct taped your children to chairs because of doing what else? You let your friend put honey and cayenne pepper in their wounds, which means that they were also being wounded. I can't with you. You also left your other children just by themselves, alone, in the middle of a neighborhood so you could go play with house with Julie. I'm sorry, but I get CPS called on me because my son wears the same outfit 2 days in a row and they couldn't do anything to you until, it became obvious and your kids were skeletons running away with duct tape around them. Make that make sense. Scarlett Sullivan, many people called CPS on Ruby and nothing happened, but Beata was separated from Maya right away. Yeah, I don't get it. I really don't. I don't get it. DCF, loses more kids, unalives more kids unintentionally by putting them in really dangerous situations. And these two were able to do what they were doing for so long. It infuriates me. Frankie and Hildebrandt were business partners and connections, an organization that promises to, quote, encourage healing and facilitate personal growth through impeccable honesty, rigorous personal responsibility, and vulnerable humility. You know what I never got from Jody or Julie or whatever her name is? Jody. I called her Julie earlier. You know what I never got from Jody or Ruby? Humility. I have watched some of those things. There is no way that they understand. It's like that freaking thing in Princess Bride. You keep saying that word, and I don't think you understand what it means. Hildebrand is listed as the founder, while Frankie is listed as a, quote, certified mental fitness trainer. I might not be into fitness, but I could be a mental fitness trainer. Okay, I'm going to need you to mentally think about pulling up this kettlebell. Now we're going to do 100 of those and 5,000 mental burpees. Frankie also operated 8 Passengers, a now defunct YouTube channel that offered parenting advice. Attorneys for Hildebrandt and Kevin Frankie did not immediately respond to NBC News' request for comment. Kevin Frankie did file a petition for divorce last month. In an interview with Good Morning America in September, an attorney for the husband said he'd been separated from his wife for over a year and had no knowledge of the alleged abuse. Again, how not? He should have been more involved in the kids' lives. I get that but as a dad, if you tell me I'm not allowed to be around my kids, the stink I would make. The stink. Yes, Bobby. I believe that's how it works. So there you go. I mean, at the bottom of all this, at the bottom of making fun of this woman for being an insane hypocrite and this Jody woman for being an awful human being are the lives and the broken families that they leave behind. And this is just awful. I don't wish this kind of ridiculousness on anyone. I hope that the dad steps up and starts getting these kids the real therapy, the real help that they actually need. Because Ruby did, in one of her, either hearings or arraignments, accuse her 12-year-old son of being inappropriate, as a reason that he had to be so severely punished. And I just, I can't. I can't with either of them. I hope that the victims in this case, all of the victims, all of the people that Ruby and Jody have hurt, get their justice, or all the justice that they can get on Earth. Because these two never acted with radical humility or whatever the hell they're trying to sell as their, tagline for super honesty. Because this is ridiculous. I hope that those pictures of her kids' wounds are seared into her head because I can't with her. New, guys, be sure that you are paying attention because there's a new scam. It's called smishing, if I pronounce that right. And they are trying to get your info. So if you keep getting these sort of like, hey, we're unable to deliver your package, those are apparently scams. I know this because I never order anything from, everything I order is mostly from Amazon. And Amazon is like, we're inside your house now and delivering your packages. So just be careful. One of the biggest scams you need to watch out for is coming from your phone. In smishing, a term that combines SMS and phishing, bad actors try to get your personal and banking information through unsolicited text messages on mobile devices. They do it by pretending to be government agencies, companies you might have done business with, or a package delivery service. Again, the government will never text you. They'll send the ATF. I know it sounds. Isn't Sean Connery still alive? Crud, I don't even know. They so again, the government will never text you. Just as a they'll send the ATF to you. I'm just kidding. But, if you don't think you have a package, don't answer any of this. Again, my husband was like, if you get feral, I pray for you that you have no children with you because they have that middle section that is just glass and things that I just pray that we get out of the store without having to pay for the entire internal section of glass tchotchkes that my sons have broken. So, Godspeed, brave warrior. Good luck. Damn it. Why are all the good ones passing away and Kevin Spacey continues to live? And I will never apologize for my rampant Kevin Spacey hate. I'm just saying. Of all the people that God could pick, he could still pick Kevin to go. The man has gotten away with more destruction than Jody Hildebrandt. Allegedly in Minecraft, don't come at me, Kevin Spacey. Seriously. I'm a female. You probably don't care. Okay, I'm going to be quiet. We see a lot of people posturing banks saying, quote, this is Chase Banks. There's a hold on your account due to a security breach. Click to verify your information. Never, ever verify your information. Again, your bank will call you. Your always check these things out. I know most of my people are more tech savvy than myself. I know my chat is much more intelligent and smart and tech savvy than me. But just, as a warning to everyone, you probably don't have a package. Your bank account has probably not been stopped. If you have questions, call your bank. Look up your credit score. Make sure that you've got things, LifeLock if you can afford it or what have you. Just unfortunately, and remind your older relatives this because, as I am like your Aunt Edith with a jitterbug, try to get this out to maybe your more vulnerable relatives who might get a little Twitter pated if they get a text from the government. And, it says, oh my gosh, your Social Security will be stopped if you don't do this, this, or this. Just, give them a little heads up. Call them, wish them a Merry Christmas, and make sure that they're not falling for any of this stuff because they do seem to target older people who will get Twitter pated about those kind of things. And I don't want these people to win. Now we move on to, we had to have it. It is a Monday story. It is a Monday. So it's Florida man. It is Florida. So this Florida man decided to allegedly put eye drops in his nephew's meatball sub so he would S himself. So for S's and giggles, he decided to poison his his nephew's meatball sandwich. For the love of all that is holy, Florida man, really, really just pulling out all the stops right before Christmas. A Florida man landed himself in jail after he secretly put eye drops in his nephew's meatball sandwich, according to the police. James Paul Leach, 45, is facing a charge of poisoning food or water. A probable cause affidavit reviewed by Law and Crime said Leach was at a business Wednesday when he asked to buy Visine drops for dry eyes. Leach and his nephew lived together. He told the employee he hated him, authorities said. The employee said he saw Leach open the eye drop container and pour it all over the meatball sandwich. Okay, sir, there's only been like 97,000 cases here lately where Visine has changed their formulation. So now it's deadly and not, makes you want to have the runs. Again, y'all, what happened to X-Lax brownies? I mean, I know X-Lax still sells the chocolate stuff because having 6 kids, we have dealt with constipation once in a while. And we've also dealt with people eating the chocolate like it's chocolate and poop explosions. So, again, I just cannot with all this. The employee said that the eye drops could hurt someone if ingested, and Leach allegedly responded that it would only cause his nephew to, quote, S himself or puke his brains out, end quote. After Leach left the business, the employee called the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office. Cops said they responded to the business, which is not named in the affidavit. Let's be honest, it's probably Walgreens or CVS. They were probably right across the street, and if one didn't have it, the other one did. Police were able to identify Leach and obtain his address through his prior purchases and deliveries from the business. Officers went to his home in Pinellas Park and alerted Leach's nephew about his poisoned food. He said he only ate a little bit of the sandwich and declined medical treatment. Leach was taken into custody. He told the cops he did not want to talk with them and requested a lawyer. Well, that's the first sane thing anyone's ever done in one of these things. Holy God, it had to be Florida man. He's like, I invoke my Fifth Amendment, and I want my lawyer here. The affidavit said Leach and his nephew have a long history of domestic-related issues, and deputies have responded to the home several times. Leach is at the Pinellas County Jail on a $50,000 bond. I mean, look, if you don't like your nephew, if you guys really just cannot live with each other, I know things are tough. I know things are hard, but why not encourage him, help him get the skills that will get him out of your house quickly, or, help him get a job or help him do something, help him save his money. Sometimes never are eye drops the answer. I didn't think I'd ever have to say this, but no, eye drops are not the answer. There you go, straight from Florida man, though he did actually ask for a lawyer instead of talking with police. So this is the first time I've ever seen this in a Law and Crime article, so I kind of feel torn because of all the people to invoke his Fifth Amendment right, actually, to get a lawyer, it'd be this guy. Of course it is. In update to the Jewish leader from Detroit being unalived, it seems that a stranger killed Jewish leader in a random violent home invasion once feared to be a hate crime, prosecutors state. So, a respected Jewish leader in Detroit died in a random home invasion at her home near downtown in October, prosecutors said Wednesday. Wayne County prosecutor Kim Worthy charged Michael Jackson Bolanos, 28, with felony murder, home invasion, lying to a peace officer. Oh, Well, fun dying, those things can be especially deadly if you eat the whole package. Not that I know from experience, but sugar free, um, look, those should come with a bigger warning. But on the plus side, you're ready for a colonoscopy if you eat the entire bag. So, you know, it's a balance thing. Jackson Blanos is accused of repeatedly stabbing 40-year-old Samantha Wool. Charges answer the question police believe of who could have killed the beloved board president of Isaac Agreed Downtown Synagogue in an invasion with many twists and turns. Detroit. Oh, well, I'm reading into it. I haven't followed the case very much, but they did have an update. So I will, once it gets closer to trial, I will definitely keep up with it. They were getting ready for a colonoscopy. You were just trying to help. Detroit police were called the morning of October 21st after a neighbor found Wool's lifeless body near her Lafayette home. She was suffering from several stab wounds, and cops found a trail of blood leading to her house where evidence of a struggle was inside. No, I said Samantha Wool. I did not say Danielle Wolf. I need to get much better at pronunciating things. It's a Samantha Wolf. Oh, I said Wool. Okay. Oh, no, that is totally okay. I haven't gotten deeply into it like I have the Delphi case, so I try to, if I think I want to maybe cover a trial later down the line, I try to not research too deeply, just to almost go in like a juror and think, okay, how are we going to present this and this? Yeah, it's all right. Look, I've already done apologized for being craptastic at names. Okay, initially many in the Jewish Detroit community feared that Wolf's death could have been a hate crime as the Israel-Hamas war had recently started. Wolf. Yeah, I am. You know, proud of my deeply. Okay, sounds good. However, Detroit Police Chief James E. White has reiterated police do not think Wolf's religion played any role in her death, something Worthy repeated after Jackson Blanos's arrest. Then, on November 8th, White announced that police had taken a man who was acquaintance of Wolf into custody as a person of interest, but 72 hours later, the police released him without charges. So, this does seem like it has been a case that has been overshadowed maybe by the political things that were going on. And people then forget that there was a woman who lost her life horribly. And I can't imagine how scared she was if this was really, truly a random person, or even if it wasn't a random person. I mean, the fact that she was going into her home where she should have felt safe, it's awful. On Sunday, Detroit police took a second person of interest, Jackson Blanos, into custody. Worthy said, quote, the exhaustive investigation, end quote, including witness interviews, review of hours of security footage, cellular data, and forensic evidence. White said at a press conference, police keyed in on Jackson Blanos because of his alleged criminal activity in the area. They tied him to several larcenies and brought him in for an interview, but later released him. They monitored his activity and arrested him on Sunday after gathering more evidence. Quote, this is an extraordinarily sad and tragic case. Since October 21st, the date that Samantha Wolf was killed, there has been painstaking, diligent, and tireless work done by the Detroit Police Department and my office. Investigations like this take time, and we do our best to never rush to judgment, Worthy said in a statement. Jackson Blanos's attorney, Brian Brown, expressed skepticism in, quote, a interview with the Detroit Free Press that police arrested the right man. Quote, it's pretty significant that they originally arrested an individual prior to arresting my client. I'm going to be looking into circumstances around that, said attorney Brian Brown. Truthfully, I think a lot of publicity in this case was receiving a lot of pressure on the Detroit Police Department to hopefully come up with somebody, and my client maintains his innocence. And I think he is just a victim of circumstance and not the individual who perpetrated this crime. White said that on October 23rd press conference that Wolf attended a wedding the night of October 20th and returned to the house early October 21st. While she was inside, there was a struggle. She was stabbed several times. She stumbled outside before she collapsed, according to White. She was outside for quite some time before she was discovered, White said. The chief said the detectives had identified persons of interest and were just short of naming one of them as a suspect. So there's a couple things with this. I do think that the police are under an extraordinary amount of pressure to find the person for this because of all of the politics that were going around. On top of they should just be finding someone to do this because she was a woman who was attacked and unalived. Mourners gathered at her October 20th funeral to remember Wolf, who went by Sam. Quote, you so deeply wanted peace for this world. You fought for everyone regardless of who they were or where they came from. Her sister Monica Wolf Rosen said during the service, according to the Detroit NBC affiliate IVD, sorry. About 1,000 people attended the service at Hebrew Memorial Chapel in Oak Park. Among those in attendance was Michigan Attorney General Diana Nessel, who gave a eulogy. That does seem a little bit... If they knew each other, then great, but I don't know if that's something that the defense can use as further evidence that they were really trying to find someone, that there was extraordinary pressure and his client was, wrapped up in this. Because rarely have I heard of an attorney general giving a eulogy. Now, Wolf had worked on her campaign, but it's still... Optically, I don't know if that will be something that the defense can use as a sign of, hey, there was an inordinate amount of pressure and the police just picked a guy. Quote, she was at every campaign event, every political protest, every religious service, every ribbon cutting. I think I saw her in a picture of the moon landing, Nessel joked. I don't know how she could be so many places at the same time. Her obituary said she was born and raised in Metro Detroit and attended the University of Michigan. She was described as a ray of sunshine to those who knew her. While Sam was a traveler and loved to explore the world, she spent her life in and around the Detroit area, and there was no one who loved the city of Detroit more, the obituary said. So, as always, I hope that if this is the right person, if it can be proved in court with all of the evidence, that the family can get some hope of justice on this earth. No court ruling, nothing that, the justice system is going to do will ever bring this person back, will ever bring this woman back, will ever make her family members feel more safe around their house because that safety sense has been taken away from them. But what we can do on this earth is provide some level of justice. And it's not going to take away the grief. It's not going to take away any of that. But it is what we can do here. And hopefully their faith, their family will be able to get them through this holiday season. Now, obviously, I understand they're not going to be celebrating Christmas, but there was Hanukkah. There's other Jewish holidays that I don't know. I'm going to be real honest with you. I learned most of my Jewish history from, well, the Rugrats, and I'm not sure that any of that was canonical. But having lost someone right around the holidays, I know how terrible the first holiday season is without that person that you love. So I do hope that this is the right person. I hope that they have, crossed their T's and dotted their I's if this is the right person, so that the family isn't dragged through a bunch of court shenanigans only for it to be, thrown out. So I do hope so. And I hope they can get at least that measure of peace that we can afford them through the justice system. In other news, a new investigation reveals how a Texas mom became a key witness in her own unaliving. And I apologize for the feet footage in this video. New York Post decided to show feet for some reason in videos that are never related to anything that is in the article. They decided to put feet for reasons. A Texas mother's own words have become a key part of testimony in her murder trial, helping convince a jury she was unalived by her husband, according to a new 48 Hours investigation. Joel Pellet is serving life in prison after he was convicted last March of the September 2020 unaliving of his 31-year-old wife and mother to his 2 young sons, Maria Eugenia Munoz. I'm going with Munoz. Again, butchery only on my part, not actually insensitivity, just terror badness. I will be calling her Maria, though, for the rest of this article. Maria's death appeared to be a suicide by pill overdose at first glance, but pages and pages of her journal entries indicate she didn't have any suicidal thoughts. Instead, the journals reveal a woman looking forward to moving on after the husband she loved deeply had cheated, the CBS show revealed. Pellet, a nurse anesthetist, called 911 in early morning hours of September 22nd, 2020, to report his wife of 10 years was unresponsive and may have had an overdose. But right away, the police were suspicious of Pellet's behavior and explanation of events that led to his wife's death. The man was sweating profusely and couldn't answer simple questions about when and how he found his Maria. They also found a syringe wrapper on the floor and a needle catheter on the stairs. Okay, not that I'm trying to help criminals, but if you're going to go through the trouble of unaliving someone and trying to make it look like an accident, clean up after yourself before you call 911. I didn't think I'd actually have to say this out loud, but it's just like, investigators soon learned that he'd been seeing a woman from work called Janet Arredondo for the past 2 years and living with her at the time. He told the cops that Maria knew about their relationship for, quote, a long while, according to 48 Hours. Then they learned the medical examiner had found no pill residue in her stomach, but a tiny puncture mark on her right elbow crease. Okay, you dumb. I'm glad you're dumb, sir. I'm glad you were the dumbest dumb ever. The medical examiner determined that Maria died from a mixed drug intoxication, but she ruled out suicide after looking through the young mother's journal entries and speaking with her friends. So kudos on this medical examiner for actually going through, looking beyond the surface, and talking to people. Because, she could have easily put this off and, said, okay, the husband said this, it's another OD, and just, swept it on or not given it the full attention. But no, she was on top of it and she, talked to friends. She looked at journal entries. The day before she died, Maria wrote, quote, "What is it I want? Number one, to move forward," according to the news show. Pellet's former boss, anesthesiologist Dr. John Hunsinger, learned of the autopsy result and called the head detective on the case to tell him he was suspicious. He advised investigators do a full toxicology screen. And good on this boss, because I'm sure that it was possibly, not easy to call and, you know, give these suspicions of a colleague to the police. 4 months later, results came back and revealed that Maria died from a fatal combination of morphine, Demerol, Versed, Propofol, ketamine, lidocaine, and Narcan. Chimney giblets, sir. Could just all of them. He was like, just all of them. I'm gonna put all the breathing depressants in one. Almost all drugs typically used in a surgery and ones that a nurse anesthetist would have access to. Sir, really, you are the dumbest criminal ever. Propofol is one drug that was in her system and is only administered by injection. There was so much of it in her system, it could have stopped her to stop breathing, according to Hunsicker and the toxicology report. It was also one of the drugs Pellet would take home from work and use recreationally, according to Arredondo, his mistress, 48 Hours reported. How in the... Okay, if Propofol is supposed to make you... Look, I don't know about all of this stuff, but it doesn't seem like a recreational drug to me. But again, as not a connoisseur of the street pharmaceuticals or the self-injected pharmaceuticals, I don't know all this stuff. Prosecutors believe Pellet first slipped some of the drugs into Maria's drink to sedate her, and once she was out of it, he injected the propofol into her arm and waited to call 911 so that first responders could not resuscitate her. And here's where I step back and I want to say thank you to the first responders. I mean, I can't imagine how it would be to get a call and work your heart out to try to save someone. And this, man made it purposeful that allegedly that they would be unable to resuscitate her. And that has to weigh on your heart and your soul. So, sir, F off for doing that to... You're a nurse. You have to know how hard it is to lose a patient. I can't imagine, how the EMS people probably felt to realize they had lost a young mother, even if it looked like it was, self-inflicted. You still have these first responders who do their very best to try to help people in most cases, and they will feel like it's on them for a while until this probably came out. And even then, that doesn't erase the fact that they were, trying their darndest to help your wife. You're such a dingle fart. Days before her death, Maria and Pellet got into an argument after she spotted his car parked outside Arredondo's house. Pellet berated his wife, cursed at her, and punched the windshield, smashing it. "Well, you seem super stable, sir." The next morning, Maria texted her husband about hiring a divorce lawyer, and he responded, "We can do this with minimal lawyer intervention. It's too much money." But later he sent her an email asking to sit down and talk without arguing in a heart-to-heart. Quote, "I am so sad, I am hurting inside," he wrote in the email. Sir, I hope you will be hurting inside, Gen Pop, allegedly. Yeah, to be fair, possibly the most peaceful way, but I feel bad for the EMS people and the doctors. Look, there's a reason I didn't go into nursing beyond well, blood makes me pass out. But I don't know that I would be able to deal with loss of a patient I worked really hard to save. And it takes a special kind of person to, have one of those days where they've lost a patient and come in the next day or their next shift and work their heart out to try to save the next person. So My hat's off to them, although I don't have a hat on right now. Here, wait. Lord of the Rings hat. My hat's off to you, good first responders, because having watched some of these police body cam videos, you see the amount of BS that they deal with, and they still go out there and they're still trying to help. And that resilience of spirit is just encouraging. You no, actually, so Mr. Mo used to be a phlebotomist, and that's actually what I was going to uh, do in the National Guard when I was going to be in the National Guard. So it's almost okay that I learned that I don't do well with blood. Oh, they did get to the full story until they get immunity to his girlfriend, quote, who knew who, oh, she knew he was, oh, what a POS. Ma'am, look, I'm not a big fan of karma, but you might need to start lighting some candles and doing some deep amount of prayer, okay? Look, as the world's worst Christian, I should not be throwing out any advice, but I'm just saying God might have some issues with this. God has plenty of issues with me too, though. So I'm just saying, you might want to start thinking about being a better-ish person because yipes, you've got a hell of a balance that you're going to need to uh, take care of. Okay, ma'am? So you might need to start thinking about that. And then here is, you know, how one tenacious Houston detective untangled the 1979 murders of a couple and their then 14-month-old son. I really do like these kind of stories where the detective just never gives up. And when you look at it from this side, you can see how these cases stay with these, first responders. And that's what really, really bothers me about these people that, again, a person who's going to unalive their wife because they're, banging someone on the side doesn't really think about the levels of destruction. But there are always people that are unintended victims that don't get a lot of attention. Um, yeah, I'm weird with both. So you think I'd be better at shaving my legs by now, but no, I manage to nick myself every time. Shins are the devil. I'm just saying. One detective with the Houston Police Department made it his life's mission to solve a shocking triple homicide in Texas, discovering another related murder along the way. On July 6, 1979, Sergeant Johnny Bonds for the Houston Police Department Homicide Division was called to the home of John and Dana Wainstrath, a beloved couple who'd been married for 10 years. At the time, the housekeeper received no answer at the door and, upon peeking through the window, found the couple slumped over in the living room. Bonds told Prosecuting Evil with Kelly Sigler, airing on Saturday nights, that the husband and wife had been shot in the head, likely about 12 hours before police arrived on scene. The longtime investigator grew teary and emotional when recalling walking down the hallway to find the Wainstrath's 14-month-old son, Kevin Wainstrath. The baby was face down in his crib, surrounded by stuffed animals. Again, y'all, it was 1979. We did not know not to have a bunch of stuffed animals. Heck, when I was born, I think they just invented car seats that weren't like milk crates or, putting kids in the back of in the back windshield little dip. I don't know how people got kids around cars before car seats, but it happened. Having sustained a fatal gunshot wound to the back of his head. All right, that's just, you know what? I hope these people get Texas justice, allegedly. Except for the blood, you'd think this was just a baby sleeping, a crying Bonds told Prosecuting Evil. It was one of those things I wish I couldn't see. According to the Houston Post reporter Nick Nielsen, John Wainstrath was a successful oceanographer, while Diana was an exuberant socialite, both proud parents of their adopted son, Kevin. Family friend Ellen Davison described John as delightful and intelligent person, adding that Diana loved him very much. In fact, Sergeant Bonds also said the neighbors had not one bad word to say about the Wainstraths, leaving detectives puzzled. At the scene, there were no signs of forced entry or anything amiss to indicate robbery as a motive. A lack of a firearm in the house ruled out any theories of a murder-suicide. Also, they were shot in the back of the head. Sergeant Bond wondered if greed was a motivating factor for the killer or killers, citing the Wainstrath's $1 million home worth a little more than $4 million in today money. He administered polygraph tests to all of John's relatives and asked them about their whereabouts around the time of the triple homicide. All of them passed according to Sergeant Bonds. He then began to look at Diana's brother, Markham Duff Smith, who was also asked to take a lie detector test. Duff Smith claimed he was home with his wife Cindy, however, he was unable to pass the polygraph. His attitude was just wrong, and Markham, his polygraph was all over the place, Bonds told prosecuting evil. At this point, my number one suspect for the murder of the Wainstrath family is Markham Duff Smith. However, there wasn't enough to charge Duff Smith with the murder. The Wainstrath murders officially ruled a murder-suicide. The Wainstrath scene resembles a murder-suicide. Or, look, YouTube, these are not my words. Do not get mad at me. I am reading an article and then adding my own commentary. So there you go. Well, I mean, that's an Arkansas. There's a difference. 7 months later, in May 1980, a renowned medical examiner, Joseph Jamaxic, look, whatever this name is, with the help of psychologist Thomas Welu, released the autopsy results following a psychological autopsy defined by prosecuting evil as, quote, an investigation into a deceased person's mental state and life events to determine cause of death. Quote, I never heard of this S. Even prosecuting evil's Kelly Sigler confessed about the contemporaneous procedure, which had already been used in bigger cities. Since an adult magazine and a smexy time toy were found at the Wainstrath home, they believed they belonged to Diana. Authorities concluded that Diana unalived her husband and son before taking her own life for fear of people learning she was gay. Yes. Well, yeah, Fry is we're working on potty training because Fry is taken to not signaling as much, and then with the boys, it's a 20-minute fight of who has to take him out if I'm having a bad day. So I've taken to you will lose your pad if you do not immediately take Fry out, because when he does signal, he's ready to potty. He doesn't signal that 20 minutes before so that the boys can get their fight of who's going to have to take him out. But that is a theory that was reported in the press but remains an unsubstantiated theory today. Sergeant Bonds called the notion ridiculous, but the murder-suicide ruling stayed in place. Quote, how do you unalive yourself, then hide the gun? Bonds wondered. However, due to Jamancic and Wells' influence, Bonds' captain transferred Bonds to Internal Affairs, where Bonds continued to work the case with the help of Internal Affairs Sergeant Dan McNulty. Quote, it's really crazy and really sad how often egos can affect the case, said Ziegler. Authorities also looked into Diana's alleged history of depression, citing the 1975 self-deletion of her mother, Gertrude Trudy Zabolio. A look into Markham Duff Smith and Walt Waldhauser. With the green light from higher ups, Bonds kept digging into the case, finding that the siblings, Diana and Duff Smith, both inherited about $100,000 from their mother's passing 4 years earlier. Just 6 months before the triple murder, the Wainsraths revisited their will so that anything they had would go to their adopted son, Kevin. But in the event of Kevin's death, Markham Duff Smith stood to inherit the Wainstrath estate. In the summer of 1980, about 1 year after the tragedy, Duff Smith and his close friend, Walt Waldhauser, left their respective wives and moved into the mansion together. This is some Brokeback Mountain crap. Allegedly, if we're going to paint the wife with it, I'm going to paint the brother with it because, whatever. Wadhauser's then wife, Debbie Wadhauser, agreed to tell Bonds that if Bonds helped her gain custody of their son amidst a contentious custody battle in court. The determined detective agreed. Good morning, crime spies. And in exchange, Debbie supplied several letters written to Wadhauser from Alan Jackenna, a man described by Sergeant McGulty as a rougher character. Jackenna was also described as an avid coin collector, which rang familiar to those close to the case. Yeah, I mean, money. Money caused you to unalive your nephew. You are such, allegedly, a dill hole. Quote, the anonymous caller said that they didn't know about Strath murders, Nelson said in Prosecuting Evil, but Diana's mother's death 4 years earlier was not a self-deletion. Investigators learned that in 1979, Jackenna and a man named Richard Buffkin were involved in a 1970s murder of a local small-time devil's lettuce dealer, and it was a crime for which Buffkin was convicted and sentenced, while Jackenna was allowed to walk free. Resentful of the turnaround, Buffkin was more than happy to turn on Jackenna, claiming they were both approached to unalive the family. Quote, that's the day everything fell into place, and emotional Bonds told Prosecuting Evil. That's the day I found out who my killer was. The arrest of Alan Jackenna. Investigators learned that Jackenna and his new girlfriend Karen were spending time in Atlanta. Houston authorities teamed up with Georgia police to surveil the suspect's movements. Ultimately, word got around that Karen told an ex-cop at a summer club that Jackenna gave her a force multiplier, with Jackenna claiming he used it to unalive a family in Houston. Detectives confronted Karen, and the woman freely supplied officers with the gun in question, a rare .22 caliber Magnum pistol that would transpire to be the gun used in the unaliving of the baby. What an absolute anal fistula. Don't look it up. They're gross, but this man. Jackenna pointed to Smith's friend, or Duff Smith's friend. Oh, okay, sorry. It was enough to arrest Jackenna without incident in Houston in connection to the Wainstrath murders before Sergeant McGulty escorted him to jail. Quote, on the way up, he says, look, I want to talk to you. I'm not going down by myself for this. Jackenna pointed to Duff Smith's friend, Walt Waldhauser. Waldhauser was soon tied to the crimes when police found he'd wired Jackenna money via Western Union. For the love of all that is holy. And Waldhauser's fingerprints were on the receipt. That is like Jussie Smollett writing a check. I mean, he almost should have just put on the memo like a MAGA attack. But okay, Waldhauser was the second to be arrested in the Wainstrath case. Prosecutor Ted Poe for the Harris County District Attorney's Office worked to cut a deal with Waldhauser, a 30-year sentence for the murders of John, Diana, and Kevin, in exchange for his testimony against Markham Duff Smith, whom investigators believed was behind the murders. Quote, no one liked it because Walt Waldhauser was a bad person, as bad as a person I've ever come across, Poe told Prosecuting Evil. It was sort of a deal with the devil, McNulty echoed. According to Alan Jacana, Duff Smith approached his sister and brother-in-law about possibly building a home in their area. Duff Smith introduced Jacana to the couple as a contractor, but then Jacana invited Wadhauser to come along and meet the Wainstraths. During the meeting at the Wainstrath home, Jacana walked behind John and used the force multiplier twice at the top of the head, according to Jacana's statements, which were audio recorded and published by Prosecuting Evil. Quote, from there, Wadhauser sprayed Miss Wainstrath in the face with mace and grabbed a hold of her and threw her down, said Jacana, which then, at that time, I walked over and put the force multiplier to the side of her head and shot it. Jacana said his mind was completely blank when he obeyed Wadhauser's orders to unalive the child. Ooh, I might need to look him up because I like creative sentences. Quote, looking at the little fella in the crib, I raised the force multiplier and pulled the okay, you need to go to Gen Pop too. I don't like you at all. When the time came for Wadhauser to confess his role in the crimes, he told Sergeant Bonds he had information on the alleged unaliving of Dana Wainstrath's mother, Gertrude Trudy Zabalo, in 1975. Yeah, they do. I mean, let's be honest. A lot of it is like the Zachariah Anderson stuff. It makes a good story. I'm just hoping that, if these deal holes actually did this terrible thing, they all went to Gen Pop, where allegedly justice happens from the queens if you watch Shawshank Redemption. Let's see. According to Sergeant Bonds, Wadhauser claimed that Jacana and someone named Paul McDonald unalived Zabalo and staged the scene to look like an self-deletion. McDonald was a friend of Wadhauser, and Wadhauser asked McDonald if he knew anyone who would unalive Zabalo on behalf of a friend. According to Wadhauser, the request came from Zabalo's son, Markham Duff Smith. McDonald asked Jacana, and Jacana agreed to take the job, according to Prosecutor Poe. McDonald drove Jacana to the Zabalo home, where Jacana disappeared for about an hour. Quote, he had her write some notes like she was getting ready to self-delete. He then placed them there around her room, Poe told Prosecuting Evil, and then he strangled her to death. He gave her a neck hug that was lethal. According to Poe, the medical examiner at the time, ruled Zabalo had choked herself to death. As you do. You pass out if you... Okay. Back then, forensics was not nearly as good or evolved as what we have today, said Kelly Ziegler. Jacana and McDonald proved to Duff Smith that they carried through with the unaliving by producing the victim's driver's license, which was taken from the Zabalo home, according to Bonds. Jacana, however, denied strangling Zabalo to death, while Bonds and McNulty believed that Jacana was instrumental in Zabalo's murder, though they were never able to prove it. For his role, McDonald was handed a 16-year sentence. Yes. Yeah. Around this time, the medical examiner had amended the postmortem reports so that the Wainstrath murder was a matter of homicide, not self-deletion. I've never heard of a forensic autopsy, mental autopsy. That just sounds like some hocus pocus cockamamie BS. Markham Duff Smith. Despite the lack of evidence for Jacana's involvement in Zabalo's murder, there was enough to charge him with the murder of Kevin Wainstrath due to his girlfriend possessing the murder weapon and Jacana's own confession. Meanwhile, Markham Duff Smith was arrested for the capital murder of his mother, but not for the murders of his sister, brother-in-law, and nephew. Quote, they could have charged him with any of the murders, but you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. You want to pick your best case and try that one, said Kelly Ziegler. Should a defendant be acquitted or receive a low sentence, prosecutors could always use the other cases as backup. In April 1981, Jacana was found guilty of capital murder and sentenced to be unalived himself by lethal injection. Duff Smith was also convicted of capital murder for the death of his mother, and a jury only took about 12 minutes to sentence him to death. Look, this is Texas, y'all. You don't do things in Texas without, realizing there's a speed ramp to which the government will try to unalive you. It was poetic justice. A family friend, Ellen Davison, said, "It was a relief. I just remember being so ecstatic we were finally getting what we were getting." 14 years after the Wainstrath family murders, Duff Smith confessed to ordering the Wainstrath's death just moments before he was unalived by the state on June 29th, 1993. Duff Smith said he was eternally sorry for it, according to reporter Rick Nelson. Alan Jaquena was unalived in 2003. Walt Waldhauser is the only living suspect, and though he was released from prison early, he was later sentenced to serve 5 life sentences for money-related crimes, according to CBS Houston affiliate KHOU. Bonds returned to parole board early to ensure Waldhauser is never released from prison. Bonds went on to receive honors for his dedication to the Wainstrath and Zabello case and retired in 2008 after 41 years of police service. Quote, "I wept over this case," Bond said. "There was pressure to quit, but I could never let." Yeah, I'll have to do more research into this case because, look, if you have a bunch of prison people, telling on each other, but if they've actually got the murder weapon and other physical links that can have, I'll have to definitely look up at that. But look, reporter Rick Nelson went on to write the book, The Cop Who Wouldn't Quit, about Johnny Bonds and his commitment to the case. So, look, if I research into this and, they did cross all their T's and dot all their I's, and it still happened that, definitely there was all the evidence that these people were guilty, then that's great. Again, just for everyone's safety, do not do criminal stuff in Texas. They have an express lane to government-assisted non-medical intervention, deletion. Okay? So I would just say, don't do crime in Texas. But there you go. That is the movie hour, or that is the morning news, and we went a little bit longer today. I am going to go help Mr. Mo with construction stuff. Oh, okay, Eris, you followed the case for a year and people are ready to case close it, blame 2 dead guys. It was a push of a screw. Yeah, that's the thing. When they labeled it early on as a murder self-deletion, they really shot themselves into the in the foot. I don't think I've ever heard of this sort of psychological breakdown of mindsets. And even if she had been a lesbian, who gives a big old pooch anymore? I don't think it's anything worth that, but there you go. Hopefully you are all getting ready for festive cheer or relaxing times on this Monday, December the 18th. I don't know where I will be on or what I will be on later today. I will try to pop in with all of our lovely people that are following cases. So make sure that you are up to date. I think EU and Sal will still be doing the Bryce Rhodes case. I don't know if Nicholas's case will be on the Young Thug case because I don't know if the guy that got injured or shanked in prison is okay yet. So I hope he is okay, but that has been placed on hold. So I will see you guys later. I will be on at 7 p.m. tonight, but I may talk to Baker about doing some newsy news over there after for a little bit help to fundraise, but I don't know how long that is going to be. So, have a wonderful day. Say one nice thing to yourself and something nice to a stranger. You never know if that might be the only nice thing that they hear or have heard for a long time. So, it's a very simple, very easy thing that you can do that might mean the whole world of difference to someone. So, just try it. And or if you don't have anything nice to say, just don't say anything at all, which is also helpful too. So have a wonderful Monday. Hey, we only have a couple more days before we get to put the elves on the shelves away, which is nice because I have been terrible with those this year. I will see you later, guys.